So we are reading Water, You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty by Dr. Batman Gileach. We're on chapter 3 of the book, page number 32 of the PDF.
Chapter 3. Basics of New Medicine for the Next Few Thousand Years. As I explained earlier, it is water, solvent, that regulates all the functions of the body, including the action of all the solids, solutes that water carries around.
So what does this mean, right? Everything dissolves in water and then is transported to the various parts of the body. So the water is basically a carrier, right? But it has its own properties also, as we'll see as we go on.
This paradigm shift is a breakthrough in the fundamentals of medical science. This shift of attention is the key to a radically different approach to all disciplines of science in the future, including the basics of medicine and biochemistry. This new focus will ultimately change the structure of thought in research in any discipline of science. What follows is a bird's eye view of the scientific importance of this paradigm shift in medicine. It may take years before the profoundness of its ramifications can reach the public, but the change is unavoidable. The new paradigm can explain the cause of and show cures for so many disease conditions that it will make mainstream medicine of 2003 look ridiculous.
So what's the paradigm shift? That water actually regulates all the functions of the body, because it actually carries around all the chemicals. It carries messages. It carries so many things. It removes the toxicity. It removes the waste matter. It brings in fresh material. So water really regulates everything that is happening in our body system.
There are many reasons why we need to pay serious attention to our daily water intake. Here are some of them. 46 reasons why your body needs water every day. Without water, nothing lives. Comparative shortage of water first suppresses and eventually kills some aspects of the body.
So this is very important, right? The water will the body system or the intelligence of the body or the autonomous nervous system, autonomic nervous system will regulate which system will get water. So if there's a water shortage, it will not supply water to some region of the body system or some process of the body system. And over here, the first point says without water, nothing lives. So naturally that will die.
Water is the main source of energy. It is the cash flow of the body.
So again, the ATP formation, when the water goes into the through the membranes of the cells, a lot of electricity is generated. So it actually is the main source of energy for us.
Water generates electrical and magnetic energy inside each and every cell of the body. It provides the power to live. 5. Water is the bonding adhesive in the architectural design of the cell structure.
So again, most of the cells are, 70% water, right? So now if the water wasn't there, the entire cell would shrivel up. So the entire body system, the structure of the body will get affected.
6. Water prevents DNA damage and makes its repair mechanisms more efficient. Less abnormal DNA is made.
So again, if water is not there, right, the systems get killed off. So the DNA mutation starts to happen. So if adequate water is there, the DNA can maintain its structure.
7. Water increases greatly the efficiency of the immune system in the bone marrow, where the immune system is formed. All its mechanisms, including its efficiency against cancer.
So one of the main things of the immune system, which keeps fighting and also cancer, is toxicity, right? If the waste matter in the body system starts to go up, automatically cancer gets formed, because cancer cannot survive if the pH of the system is less than 5, and that is caused by toxicity. And what regulates the toxicity of the body is basically water, because that's the waste removal system of the body. The body uses water to eliminate the toxins from the body system.
Is less than or more than?
What
The pH.
is less than 5?
8. Water is the main solvent for all foods, vitamins, and minerals. It is used in the breakdown of food into smaller particles and their eventual metabolism and assimilation.
So again, since everything dissolves in water, it becomes easier for the body to assimilate it.
9. Water energizes food and food particles and then able to supply the body with this energy during digestion. This is why food without water has absolutely no energy value for the body.
So if there's no water, digestion will not take place. The body will not be able to digest what you are eating, right? The water has to be there. The acids need water to get secreted in the stomach. If the water is not there, the acid only will not get secreted. So how is the body going to digest anything?
10. Water increases the body's rate of absorption of essential substances in food.
So again, water is there. That's when the body can absorb material in the intestines.
11. Water is used to transport all substances inside the body.
If water is not there, things will not move.
12. Water increases the efficiency of red blood cells in collecting oxygen in the lungs.
So again, if all the blood cells are clotted up, right, and the water is not there, basically, if you are dehydrated, the red blood cells clot up, and this is something that we've seen on the dark field microscope that we have also at the center over here. So again, when adequate water is there, dehydration is not there, the red cells open up, and that's when they go into the lungs, they collect more oxygen.
13. When water reaches a cell, it brings the cell oxygen and takes the waste gases to the lungs for disposal.
So again, the disposal, the elimination system of the body. If that is not done, then the toxicity in the body will go up.
14. Water clears toxic waste from different parts of the body and takes it to the liver and kidneys for disposal.
So again, the waste removal system of the body.
15. Water is the main lubricant in the joint spaces and helps prevent arthritis and back pain.
So again, if enough lubrication is not there in the body system, and water is what provides the lubrication. So if that water, there's dehydration, you'll find all the joints will start to cramp up, the muscles will start to cramp up, everything in the body will start to cramp up.
Water is used in the spinal discs to make them look shock-absorbing water cushions.
Again, if water is not there, the discs will shrivel up. So if they shrivel up, then naturally they cannot maintain that cushioning ability.
17. Water is the best lubricating laxative and prevents constipation.
1 second, I think this is off. Yeah. So naturally, again, if you don't have enough water, the food will get clumped up. It will get stuck in the system. So there has to be adequate digestive enzymes, etc., which are secreted. And that happens when there is enough water.
18. Water helps reduce the risk of heart attacks and strokes.
So naturally, if the blood is flowing, right, if there's adequate water in the blood, the viscosity of the blood is not high, then automatically the prevention of heart attacks and clogs in the arteries of the heart take place.
19. Water prevents clogging of arteries in the heart and the brain. 20. Water is essential for the body's cooling, sweat and heating electrical systems.
So again, water is generating electricity And when we are hot, water comes onto the skin of the body and evaporates, which creates a air conditioning or a cooling effect for the body.
21. Water gives us power and electrical energy for all brain functions, most particularly thinking.
So again, if there is no water in the brain, right, the brain needs to be flushed out of the waste that is generated in the brain very, very quickly and powerfully. If that is not happening, then our thinking ability starts to get affected. This can lead to brain fog, right, where you can't think straight.
22. Water is directly needed for the efficient manufacture of all neurotransmitters, including serotonin.
So serotonin is one of the very powerful neurotransmitters and chemicals which are generated in the body system, which is responsible for our feeling of well-being, right? So if serotonin is not generated, we don't feel comfortable.
23. Water is directly needed for the production of all hormones made by the brain, including melatonin.
So melatonin again is a very powerful chemical which is produced by the body system. It is responsible for regulation of sleep. It is responsible for our immunity system regulation and a lot of other things, right? So serotonin and melatonin, they are two things that are very important for our functioning of our body system.
24. Water can help prevent attention deficit disorder in children and adults.
So now if enough water is flowing to the brain and the brain is functioning properly, then automatically ADD, ADHD also starts getting affected, right? So that means that water is a very important ingredient in human mental functioning. It allows a person to be able to focus better. It allows a person to be able to concentrate better. And ADD is where a child does not know how to focus properly.
25. Water increases efficiency at work. It expands your attention span.
So again, as if brain fog is not there, your ability to concentrate, your ability to focus will automatically increase.
26. Water is a better pick-me-up than any other beverage in the world, and it has no side effects.
So again, if water is generating electricity, it's improving digestion, it's improving all the functions of the body, then definitely whenever we drink a glass of water, we get energized.
27. Water helps reduce stress, anxiety, and depression.
So again, the more the charge in the body, right? The more the energy there is available for the body system, it will naturally affect our, if you're depressed, you feel low in energy. The brain is not functioning properly. So as soon as you start drinking adequate water, it will automatically lift you up. That pick me up, which is there from water, which we read in point 26, will automatically reduce anxiety, stress, and depression.
28. Water restores normal sleep rhythms.
So again, if the body is functioning properly, automatically the sleep rhythms will also get affected. Digestion is taking place properly. The waste removal system is working properly. So automatically you will sleep better also.
29. Water helps reduce fatigue. It gives us the energy of youth.
So again, we've seen that water generates electricity, right, in the body system. So naturally, it will affect fatigue. It will help us to sleep better. The immunity system works better. Everything starts to work better.
30. Water makes the skin smoother and helps decrease the effects of aging.
So again, if the cells in the body are adequately hydrated, then the cellular structure of the skin, etc., will automatically be much better, right? So automatically it will help to smoothen out skin. What we've seen is that in the workshops also, we always tell people to hydrate themselves because a lot of elimination takes place. You'll never visit the toilet as much as when you are attending one of the Monroe Institute programs. So there was this lady who came into the program in Bangalore, and she had pock marks. She had all dots on her skin, on her face. And she's asking me, will this get cleared up by the end of the program? I said, yes. And believe me, when I tell you, all those dots were gone at the end of the program. So one of the reasons is that you go into such a relaxed state that your blood flow increases. All the blood cells start to open up. And we also insist that people have a lot of water. So one of the reasons is that cleansing process which takes place in the system. So absolutely, I think it is one of the best skin cares that you can do. Have enough water. Okay, rather than applying uh, chemicals on your face, have enough water. So 1 second, it seems Shivangla is locked up.
31. Water gives luster and shine to the eyes.
So again, water is very important for your eyes, right? There is something called a dry eye syndrome. I don't know how many of you all have experienced it. If there is no water in the eyes, you will find that it's very difficult to hold, right? Your eye, it can become extremely painful. So constantly tears are forming in our eyes. What is that? That is water. So if water is not there adequately, it will cause a crimping of the eyes also.
Water helps prevent glaucoma.
So again, it's with the eyes, right? If adequate hydration is there, then the the waste matter doesn't accumulate in the eye. It gets eliminated. So it helps in eliminating glaucoma.
33. Water normalizes the blood manufacturing systems in the bone marrow. It helps prevent leukemia and lymphoma.
So again, one of the causes of leukemia, all kinds of cancer is basically toxicity in the system. If adequate water is there, the toxicity is not there, then cancer cannot form. It is not possible.
34. Water is absolutely vital for making the immune system more efficient in different regions to fight infections and cancer cells where they are formed.
So again, I've been repeating this, right? It eliminates the toxicity from the system. And if toxicity is what makes the body system more acidic, and cancer cells can survive only in an acidic environment. So if the pH of the body is maintained at 7.4, then there will be no formation of cancer. It is not possible.
Water dilutes the blood and prevents it from clotting during circulation. Water decreases premenstrual pains and hot flashes.
So again, what naturally, if there's adequate water, then the viscosity of the water of the blood also drops, right? The blood can flow much more easily. And again, when you're menstruating, you're releasing the waste matter, you're releasing the stuff which is held on. And if water is there, the adequate flow will be maintained. If that is water is not there, then the body will not want to release the water. So then it can cause menstrual pains and hot flashes.
37. Water and heartbeats creates the dilution and waves that keeps things from sedimenting in the bloodstream.
So again, as the heart is beating, this is something that we talk about in the Resilience Advantage program. A wave is created by the heart beating, right? That wave goes and percolates through the body system. It's also a method of how the message goes to the brain as to whether the heart is pumping coherently or not. Now that message goes through the bloodstream, which is 70 or 80% water, right? So that water carries that signal through the body. How is the heart beating?
38. The human body has no stored water to draw on during dehydration. This is why you must drink regularly and throughout the day.
So again, we are not like camels, like we have a hump and water is stored there. That's why we need to keep hydrating ourselves.
39. Dehydration prevents sex hormone production, one of the primary causes of impotence and loss of libido.
Okay, so now if there's no water, that means survival is a question mark. So that is why procreation will not take place if dehydration is there in the system. Okay, this is true for animals also. Whenever a drought takes place in 1 year, the next year the production or the birth of birth of animals gets automatically restricted, because the animals fear there's going to be a drought and there will not be enough water to be able to sustain life of the young ones. So automatically the production of babies goes down, or the small animals goes down, right? And this is true for us also. Although we've now developed various ways of getting water, and we don't have any shortage anywhere in most of the modern cities. But the fact is that if you have the water but you don't drink it, then there is dehydration in the body system, which will cause impotence and loss of libido.
Drinking water separates the sensations of thirst and hunger.
Now, this is very important. Most of the time, when you are feeling thirst, you are feeling hungry, most of the time you're actually thirsty. Now, because you're not drinking any water, the body says, if you eat something, at least I will get some water from whatever water is there in what we eat. So you are actually not hungry, you're thirsty. So when the hunger pang goes up, if you drink a glass of water, you will find that you don't need to eat, because the body is actually asking for water and not for food.
41. To lose weight, water is the best way to go. Drink water on time and lose weight without much dieting. Also, you will not eat excessively when you feel hungry, but are in fact only thirsty for water.
So this is a fact, right? If you are eating too much, one of the reasons may be that you're actually thirsty and the body is craving the water in the food. So if you start drinking enough water, you'll find that your food intake is going to come down. You will not be eating as much. So automatically your weight will get controlled.
42. Dehydration causes deposits of toxic sediments in the tissue spaces, joints, kidneys, liver, brain, and skin. Water will clear these deposits.
So again, water is what removes the waste matter from the system. Now, if there's not adequate water available, it is going to accumulate wherever it can accumulate in the body system.
43. Water reduces the incidence of morning sickness in pregnancy.
So one of the reasons a person feels sick is, again, dehydration.
44. Water integrates mind and body functions. It increases ability to realize goals and purpose.
So again, if you're not having brain fog and your brain is functioning properly, then automatically what is going to happen is that you're going to take better decisions. You'll be able to work better, you'll be more energized, and automatically your goals will start becoming will manifest.
44. Water integrates mind and body functions. It increases ability to realize goals and purpose. 45. Water helps prevent the loss of memory as we age. It helps reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, and Lou Gehrig's disease.
So again, when the brain is not given enough adequate water supply or enough or adequate water supply, the neurons start to shrivel up, right? When the neurons start to shrivel up and they don't have, then that is when the brain functioning starts to get affected. That is what causes Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, right? So if we can provide adequate hydration, all these brain related disease or issues or situations that occur will automatically start to get reduced.
46. Water helps reverse addictive urges, including those for caffeine, alcohol, and some drugs.
So again, if you have adequate water, then the craving for stimulation will come down, right? Because the water generates the electricity. It becomes a stimulant itself. So that's why, again, adequate water drinking is very important.
Some of the primary properties and functions of water in the body. Number one, water is the bulk material that fills empty spaces in the body.
So our bodies are anything between 70 to 80% water. So naturally, it is filling up all the empty space in the body system.
Two, water is the vehicle of transport for the circulation of blood cells.
So again, blood is 80 to 90% water. If the water wasn't there, then the blood cells, the red blood cells, would not be able to circulate. So naturally, it is responsible for all the circulatory systems in the body.
Three, water is a solvent for the materials that dissolve in it, including oxygen.
So again, water is there in the red blood cells, and the red blood cells are absorbing the oxygen. If the water wasn't there in the red blood cells, then the red blood cell would not be able to absorb the oxygen to take it to the various cells in the body system. So naturally, water absorbs everything and is the delivery mechanism, or the Aadhaar, the base of delivering of nutrients as well as oxygen into our body system.
4. Water is the adhesive that binds solid parts of the cell together. Just as ice has a sticky effect, so water seems to become sticky at the cell membrane. It is responsible for holding things together and forming a membrane or protective barrier around the cell.
Again, if the membrane of the cell is not hydrated, it's not going to be spongy, right? It's not going to be able to hold the cell together. So again, water is what gives the ability to the cell to hold itself together and also combine with various other cells to create our organs and other systems.
5. The neurotransmission systems of the brain and nerves depend on rapid movement of sodium and potassium in and out of the membrane along the full length of the nerves. Water that is loose and not bonded with something else is free to move across the cell membrane and turn the element moving pumps.
So again, basically when the molecules of sodium and potassium go through the membrane of the cell, that is when the electricity is generated, and that is facilitated by water. If water was not there, then that movement would not take place, ATP would not be generated, and the electrical circuitry in the body would not work, right? So water becomes very important for the generation of the electricity in the body system, which is done through these pumps, these element moving pumps. That is what the pumps that shift the potassium and the sodium in and out of the cellular system.
6. Some of the element moving pumps are voltage generating pumps. Thus, efficiency of neurotransmission system depends on the availability of free and unengaged water in the nerve tissues. In its osmotic urge to get into the cell, water generates energy by turning the pump units that force potassium into the cell and push sodium outside the cell. Just as water turns the turbines at a hydroelectric dam to make electricity. Up to now, however, it has been assumed that all energy storage in adenosine triphosphate, ATP, the substance that burns and gives out heat to cook any of the chemical reactions required for the cell to function, is from food intake. This is why water has not received much attention as a source of energy in the energy generating systems in the body.
So again, it was assumed that food is what gave us the energy, but now it has been understood that it is water which actually gives us more energy than food. As I mentioned, right, in the cellular membrane, there are these structures which allow things into the cell and then stuff out of the cell. And they are like turbines. So when the water pushes itself through that, the turbine moves and creates that energy or electricity that runs the body system. It is not food, it is more water that allows us to run our body system.
7. Water is the central regulator of energy and osmotic balance in the body. Sodium and potassium stick to the protein of the pump and act as the magnet of the dynamo when water rotates the pump proteins. The rapid turn of these cation, pronounced cation, pumps generates energy that is stored at many different locations in three different pool types.
So again, when the water moves, it generates the electricity.
ATP is one type of energy pool.
So again, what he's meaning over here is ATP, when ATP is generated, it stores the energy, right? So it acts like a battery, which the body uses that energy when it needs it. Okay. So ATP is like a battery cell inside the cellular system of the body.
Another energy storage pool is guanosine triphosphate, GTP. A third system is in the endoplasmic reticulum that captures and traps calcium. For every 2 units of calcium that are trapped, the energy equivalent of 1 unit of ATP is stored in the connection of the 2 calcium atoms.
So when that energy is trapped, it creates that energy in the form of ATP. That's why calcium again is very important for our body system. It's alkalizing, so it helps in lowering the pH of the water. It's needed for generation of the bones. It's needed for so many other things. That's why calcium is very, very important.
For every 2 units of calcium that are separated from one another and released, 1 unit of energy to make a new unit of ATP is also released. This mechanism of calcium entrapment as a means of energy storage makes the bone structure of the body not only its scaffolding but also its Fort Knox, like investment of your cash in gold reserve.
So a lot of energy is technically stored in our bones.
Hence, when there is severe dehydration and consequently a decreased supply of hydroelectric energy, the body taps into the bones for their stored energy. Thus, I believe that the primary cause of osteoporosis is persistent dehydration.
So have you got it? If you are not hydrating enough, then osteoporosis can also start taking place.
8. The foods we eat are the products of energy conversion from the initial electrical energy generating property of water. All living and growing species, humans included, survive as a result of energy generation from water. One major problem in the scientific evaluation of the body is the lack of understanding of the magnitude of our body's dependence on energy from hydroelectricity.
So nothing can grow without water, right? So everything that we are eating is coming from water. If the water was not there, we would not be eating anything, right? Even plants, animals, everyone needs water. Now, this is something that has not been totally understood.
9. The electricity produced at the cell membrane also forces the nearby proteins to align themselves and get ready for their chemical reactions.
So now this is also very important. When an electrical current is generated, it creates a magnetic field, right? And the magnetic field automatically aligns the cells to match that particular polarity. So automatically when they start aligning, then interaction between the proteins also becomes easier.
Blood is normally about 94% water when the body is fully hydrated. Red cells are actually water bags that contain the colored hemoglobin. Inside the cells of the body, there should ideally be about 75% water. Because of this difference in water levels outside and inside the cells, an osmotic flow of water into the cells normally occurs.
So again, if water is more outside, it is going to flow into the cells. But when we start getting dehydrated, then there is not enough water to push into the cells.
There are hundreds of thousands of voltage generating pump units at the cell membranes, much like the turbines used in hydroelectric dams. The water that flows through them rotates these pumps. This rush of water creates hydroelectric energy. At the same time, and as part of the same process, elements such as sodium and potassium are exchanged.
So when the water is pushing in, it's carrying in all the nutrients, it's carrying in all the requirements of the cellular system, right? And when it is getting out of the cell, it is taking away whatever the waste matter is. Each cell has a brain of its own. It is a functioning unit, right? So it is consuming energy, it is releasing energy, it is consuming energy and producing waste. That waste needs to be taken out of the cell, otherwise the cell will become toxic. So again, what is it that does that? It is water which does that, producing electricity in the way in as well as in the way out.
Only water that is free and can move about, the water you drink, generates hydroelectric energy at the cell membrane. The previously supplied water that is now busy with other functions cannot leave its binding position to rush elsewhere. This is why water by itself should be considered the most suitable pick-me-up beverage and should be consumed at regular intervals during the day. The good thing about water as a source of energy is the fact that any excess water is passed out of the body. It manufactures the needed energy to top up the reserves in the cells and then leaves the body carrying with it the toxic waste of the cells. It is not stored.
So again, water, it's very easy for the body to eliminate the water, right? So that's why it's always better to have excess water than to have less water, which results in dehydration.
When there is dehydration because a person is not drinking enough water, the cells become depleted of their ready energy. They then have to depend more on energy generation from food that is consumed instead of water. In this situation, the body is pushed into storing fat and using its protein and starch reserves because it is easier to break these elements down than the stored fat. This is the reason why 37% of people in America are grossly overweight. Their bodies are engaged in perpetual crisis management of dehydration.
So have you got this right? This is something that all ladies will be very happy with. The simple reason is, one of the reasons that you put on weight is because of dehydration. If there's not enough water in the system, then the body wants to store the fat in the body system, which it is generating from getting you to feel hungry and eat more, right? Than what you actually require for the body to function. So if you hydrate enough, you will find that you will feel less hungry. So you will eat less, and naturally less fat is going to be stored in the body system.
The word hydrolysis, loosening, dissolving, breaking, or splitting by the participating action of water, is used when water becomes involved in the metabolism of other materials. Activities that depend on hydrolysis include the breakdown of a protein into the different amino acids that have been used to make that particular protein, and the breakdown of large fatty particles into smaller fatty acid units. Without water, hydrolysis cannot take place. It follows then that the hydrolytic function of water also constitutes the metabolism of water itself. What this means is that water itself needs to be broken down first, hydrolyzed, before the body can use the various components in food. This is why we need to supply the body with water before we eat solid foods.
So again, water is required to break down the foods. Without water, the food cannot be broken down. So now it's not we shouldn't be drinking water with the food. We should actually be drinking water half an hour before food, supply the body with adequate water. So when the food comes in, the water is available for the breakdown of the food. I mean, for production of acids, right? Hydrochloric acid in the stomach is basically water, which is acidic. So if water is not there, the acids will not get produced and the food will not get broken down into smaller particles, which can be absorbed or digested by the intestinal system.
Chapter 4: Water Regulation of a Fetus and an Infant. From the very moment of conception, when the father's sperm fuses with the mother's egg to form a single cell unit of life, that cell has to divide and divide and divide millions of times over to develop into a form that can firmly connect itself to the uterine wall. By the time it grows to be a full-term baby, about 1 trillion cell divisions will have taken place. For this to happen, it has to impose a water regulatory pattern for its needs on the mother's water intake systems. Remember, each new cell that forms has to be filled up mainly with water. All of a sudden, the mother has to take in more water to supply the growing demands of the child. Even when the child is born, the mother has to provide the water needs of the infant through her milk manufacturing system. The mother's breast is both a sort of water fountain for her child and a source of food.
So that's why ladies who are pregnant have to hydrate themselves properly. Otherwise, there is a problem.
A graphic model of the proposed body water regulation at the three major phases of life: the fetus, the growing child, and the fully developed person, using water versus dehydrating fluids.
So if you are using too many dehydrating fluids, it will reduce the water in your system, right? And as the child is growing, your water requirements keep growing up because the body is growing, it keeps needing more water. That's why children need to drink more water than adults, but adults must always watch their water intake.
Early pregnancy morning sickness. In light of the above information, how does a pregnant woman register her new level of water needs? I am going to share with you a secret that has never been before recognized. The early pregnancy morning sickness of a pregnant woman is a most meaningful thirst signal. In fact, it is the very first sign of dehydration of the mother and fetus together. It is brought about by the water regulatory action of histamine.
So again, they found that histamine is present when morning sickness is there. So they give medication of antihistamine in many of the cases. So wherever there's a water regulation issue, histamine comes in, and it is thought that histamine creates the problem. But it's actually the dehydration which is creating the problem.
This indication of the water needs of the growing fetus through the mother's sensory system is an important signal that connects the child's sensory system for its water needs to the mother's regulatory mechanisms. Most mothers adjust their water intake by the third month and the morning sickness disappears. But some don't and continue to live a life that promotes dehydration in the fetus as well as themselves. The consequences can be catastrophic.
So again, this is something that no one talks about, right? Hydration for the mother. So this is very, very important. I mean, all of you, if you're, I mean, I don't know how many youngsters are here, but if you have youngsters who are getting pregnant, then this is something that you must tell them, that they must start drinking more water because the body really needs it.
When a mother continues to drink coffee, tea, and alcohol during her pregnancy and does not take sufficient water, she influences the physiological pattern of the developing child in her uterus.
Now, this is very important, right? Now, this is the reason why, in olden times also, the mothers were told not to have tea and coffee, and alcohol is something that was always restricted from pregnant ladies because it causes dehydration, right? And if the mother is not taking enough water, then it can affect a change in the DNA of a child, saying that enough water is not available, and then that can create huge issues. That's why a pregnant lady must always hydrate herself properly. And over here, they are saying tea and coffee. I would add soft drinks over here, right? Nowadays, I mean, naturally, that time soft drinks were not so much in vogue, but soft drinks also are dehydrative. So even soft drinks must not be taken by pregnant ladies.
The child draws the necessary ingredients for growth from the mother's pool of resources. The desperately needed ingredients include water, oxygen, and the amino acids that are available in the mother's circulation. Thus, the level of water intake and the composition of the amino acids made available during intrauterine life determine the assets of the growing child for natural development.
So amino acids are the building blocks of the physical body, right? So amino acids are needed, and amino acids work when there is adequate water. So again, that becomes again very, very important.
These in turn establish a metering system that regulates the child's future growth and development.
So again, affecting the DNA of the child.
The importance of the role of the mother's lifestyle during the physiological development of the child in the uterus is not fully realized. The mother is responsible for the creation of a healthy, natural chemical environment in which the child can grow through all the necessary developmental stages from a single cell to a full-term baby.
So again, this is very important, right? In our culture, we were told that if a lady is expecting, then she should listen to good things, talk to good people, not indulge in things which are detrimental to her health and mental and physical balance, etc., etc. Right? Now that is very, very important. In the Western culture, this was not really recognized. Mothers were smoking and they were drinking, and then naturally it affected the development of the child.
As we will learn later, the physiology and the chemical commands of stress in the body translate into an immediate adaptive and coping process to anticipated dehydration.
So again, if the mother is stressed out, it is going to stress the baby out. And immediately those habits of managing and coping will come into the baby's body system.
Dehydration itself causes the body severe stress. The body establishes certain physiological and hormonal reactions to stress. The fetus is not protected from the physiological signals associated with the stresses of the mother.
So the baby is very pure. The fetus is very pure. It doesn't have any regulatory systems. It totally depends on the mother's systems. So if the mother's systems is totally stressed out, it is bound to create a lot of stress in the baby. Okay, and that's not a good thing.
The indicators of stress that influence the mother's physiology and become the basis for her adaptive behavior also register with the child.
So whatever is happening with the mother when the child is in utero affects the baby tremendously. And we are finding this when we are doing biofield tuning. We start tuning in utero, and we find a lot of issues that a person, the adult, is actually experiencing is something that the mother experienced in utero, which is affecting the adult now, right? So you can understand that what is happening in utero is very, very important. That's why, again, for the lady to maintain harmony within herself becomes so important.
We should remember that all recordings of the mother's physiology are determined by chemical messenger systems. The influences of one or another transmitter system that becomes engaged in the stress coping process of the mother can possibly affect the fetus. They will possibly create chemical readings in the child similar to those that are designed to be established in the mother.
So again, whatever is happening with the mother will influence the fetus or the child when the mother is pregnant.
Simply put, let us not underestimate the influence and responsibility of the mother for providing a normal chemical environment for the development, well-being, and future normal behavior of the fetus growing in her uterus, the preparatory school of life. The child's learning during its interuterine school days can become the format settings for behavior and mood patterns in adult phases of life. Every form of behavior and the thought translates into the release of a combination of chemical messenger systems. The release of chemical combinations can also code the brain of a growing fetus in the uterus.
So this is very important, right? Whatever the mother is thinking about, whatever the mother is doing is constantly influencing and affecting the fetus, because the development of the fetus is totally dependent on the environment that the mother exists in her body and out of her body.
Thus, the lifestyle of a pregnant woman can influence the chemistry of a developing fetus. If she develops an imbalance in her chemistry, her fetus has to cope with the imbalance too. It is true that the placenta acts as a selective barrier, but certain natural chemicals of the body go across the barrier, even in disproportionate amounts if these are present in the mother.
So again, the baby has its protective mechanisms, but they are not they don't have too much of a fail safe. So stuff can actually get into the system of the baby.
In short, the mother's range of chemistry is a template for the development of a child.
So again, whatever is happening with the mother will be reflected in the child. So whatever the mother is thinking, whatever the mother is feeling, it's all going into the child.
Similarly, a mother who consumes an excess of alcohol during pregnancy may produce a mentally fractured and unable to cope child. A developing brain needs much water. One of the ways of getting water through the cell wall is by the creation of small showerhead perforations that allow only water through.
So there
Others
is a mechanism in the cell, I forget the name of it, which acts like a shower head, which only allows certain chemicals to get into the cellular system. So those heads become again very important because they allow the water to go and nothing else to go.
Other solid substances that are dissolved in the serum do not get into the cell when water is injected into the cell. The act of producing these very small perforations in the cell wall to let only water in is under the control of a hormone called vasopressin, the agent engaged in the drought management program of the body.
So vasopressin becomes very important because that is what regulates this water intake into the cellular system.
Alcohol has been shown to prevent vasopressin formation and its functions. When alcohol consumption by the mother prevents the secretion and the needed actions of vasopressin, the same effect is produced in the child. The mother's brain structure is already formed, but the fetus's is not. The lack of vasopressin can result in the child's brain not developing normally.
So now this is very important. Okay, so for all ladies who are pregnant, alcohol is a no because of this basic reason, because alcohol suppresses the production of vasopressin, which is again controlling the water supply into the cellular system, which results in the growth of the baby. So it is not advisable for pregnant ladies to have alcohol.
The child's lungs may also develop with abnormalities that could lead to cystic deformation. Because of the vital role of water in regulating all functions of the body, it is not accurate to blame most developmental abnormalities entirely on DNA malformation, as has been the case up to now. Dehydration could be a contributing factor.
So everything is not on genetics, right? It is also on epigenetics. That is the environment in which the cell is existing. I think we can stop here. Or you can actually go to the next page. We'll just see this picture. Yeah, so again, water filtration through the cellular membrane, right? So these shower heads are formed through which the water molecules actually enter. And on the side of that shower head, there is one clamp-like thing. That is where the neurochemicals go and sends a message into the cell for something to happen. Okay, so the receptor cell, because of vasopressin, turns into the shower head, which allows the water to flow through. Okay, I think we can stop here today.
Stop recording.